Today I also spent some time in Boderne on the south coast of Bornholm. Boderne is a small and quiet coastal area not too far from Akerkeby, and compared to some of the busier places on the island, everything here feels slower and more peaceful. The moment I arrived, the atmosphere immediately felt different. There were small gravel roads, low trees and bushes near the coastline, little boats resting quietly in the harbor, and almost no noise except the wind and the sound of the water nearby. One thing I really like about places like Boderne is that they still feel very natural and relaxed. It does not feel overly crowded or heavily built up. Instead, it feels like one of those places where people simply come to enjoy the sea, go for walks, spend time near the water, or quietly work with their boats. I spent a good amount of time just walking around and observing the area. Near the harbor there were several small fishing boats and other boats resting in the calm water. The water itself was extremely still while I was there, almost like a mirror in some places. The small harbor also gives the area a lot of character. It is not huge or flashy, but that is exactly why it feels interesting. It feels real and practical instead of designed only for tourism. You can tell this is a place connected to everyday coastal life. As I continued exploring the area, I eventually reached the beach nearby. The coastline here looked very peaceful, with clear water, pale sand, stones along the shore, and almost no large waves at all. Everything felt very calm that day. The colors were also really beautiful. The blue sky blended together with the sea, and the sunlight reflected gently across the water. Some parts of the coastline looked almost untouched, especially further away from the harbor area. One of the most interesting moments happened later when I noticed a flock of swans resting out in the shallow water near the shore. There were at least 9 of them, maybe even more. I actually stayed there observing them for quite a while because they were surprisingly fascinating to watch. The swans moved very slowly and peacefully across the water. Some of them stayed close together while others drifted slightly farther away. Every now and then one of them would dip its head below the surface while the others continued floating quietly nearby. There was something very relaxing about simply standing there and watching them. Nobody was rushing anywhere. The water barely moved, the birds stayed calm, and the whole coastline felt incredibly quiet. I think moments like that are part of what makes places like Bornholm special. Sometimes the most memorable experiences are not huge attractions or famous landmarks. Sometimes it is simply standing near the sea, watching a group of swans moving through the water while everything around you becomes completely still for a little while. I also noticed how clean and peaceful the entire area felt while walking around Boderne. Even near the harbor, everything felt laid back and comfortable. The combination of the boats, the coastline, the open sky, and the quiet atmosphere made the whole visit feel very relaxing. What I liked most was probably the contrast between the small harbor area and the open coastline nearby. In one moment, you are walking near boats and wooden docks, and a few minutes later you are standing near the beach looking out across the Baltic Sea with almost nobody around. Places like Boderne may not be the loudest or most famous destinations on Bornholm, but they have their own kind of charm. The peaceful atmosphere, the coastal scenery, the quiet harbor, and even something as simple as watching a flock of swans for a while made this visit feel memorable. And after spending time there yesterday, I can definitely understand why people enjoy coming back to places like this again and again.